What secrets do legends keep until the very end? Hollywood has always been built on mystery. For every dazzling premiere and every glamorous photoshoot, there are private stories left untold, whispers that circle for decades, keeping fans guessing. And sometimes, it's only in the twilight of a star's life that pieces of those mysteries begin to surface. At 93 years old, Angie Dickinson has lived through it all. She is one of the last true icons of Hollywood's golden age, a woman who has worked with John Wayne, flirted with Frank Sinatra, and redefined what it meant to be a leading lady. But one name has followed her more persistently than most: Johnny Carson. For 30 years, Carson ruled American television as host of The Tonight Show. His voice, his wit, and his piercingly private personality made him both the most visible and the most mysterious man in the country. He could launch a career with a single laugh, or ruin one with a single cold glance. Yet behind his carefully guarded privacy, fans always suspected there was more to his story, especially when it came to Angie Dickinson. Over the years, hints slipped out. She admitted she was attracted to him. She confessed they had been close. She even suggested that romance was possible, but the timing was never right. Still, she left the details vague, and that vagueness fueled decades of speculation. Were they just friends? Were they almost lovers? Or were they something more, a secret story carefully buried in the vaults of Hollywood? Today, we'll explore the facts, the rumors, and the reality. We'll retrace their parallel careers, their sparkling chemistry, and the few tantalizing words Angie has shared about Johnny. Most of all, we'll ask what it really means when someone finally opens up and why audiences still lean in closer whenever Angie Dickinson says Johnny Carson's name. Angeline Brown was born in 1931 in the small town of Culm, North Dakota, a place far removed from the glamour she would one day embody. When she was 10, her family moved to Burbank, California. The move placed her just a few miles away from the growing heart of the film and television industry. She was an ordinary girl in an extraordinary place, and though she dreamed of a quiet life as a secretary or writer, fate had other plans. In 1953, Angie entered a beauty contest simply for fun. She placed second, and that one event opened doors. Talent scouts noticed her striking looks and approachable charm. Soon, she was appearing in small television roles, slowly building experience in Hollywood's competitive world. Unlike many aspiring actresses, Angie had more than beauty, she had wit, intelligence, and presence. Her breakthrough came in 1959 with Howard Hawks' Rio Bravo. Playing feathers, opposite John Wayne, she captivated audiences. Strong-willed yet vulnerable, glamorous yet grounded, Angie was unforgettable. From there, she became a fixture in Hollywood. In the 1960s, she took on roles in films like The Killers and Point Blank, proving she could carry both action and drama. She also joined Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack in Ocean's 11, cementing her status as both an actress and a cultural figure. By the 1970s, Angie Dickinson wasn't just a star, she was a pioneer. Cast as Sergeant Suzanne Pepper Anderson in Police Woman, she became the first woman to lead an American police drama on television. The show was groundbreaking, not just because of its plots, but because of its symbolism. Angie represented strength, independence, and resilience in a medium dominated by men. She won a Golden Globe and inspired a generation of actresses. Meanwhile, Johnny Carson was following a very different but equally remarkable path. Born in 1925 in Corning, Iowa, he grew up fascinated by magic. At age 12, he was performing under the name The Great Carsoni, delighting neighbors with card tricks and sleight of hand. After serving in the Navy during World War II, he pursued broadcasting, first in radio, then in television. By the 1950s, Carson had carved a niche as a quick-witted host and writer. His charm was undeniable, and his career steadily gained momentum. In 1962, he took the reins of The Tonight Show, succeeding Jack Paar. It was a decision that would redefine late-night television. For the next 30 years, Johnny Carson became a fixture in American homes. His monologues set the tone of the day, his interviews showcased Hollywood's brightest stars, and his presence became part of the national routine. To appear on Carson's couch was to be validated by America itself. Though their careers were distinct, their lives began to intertwine. Angie Dickinson appeared on The Tonight Show multiple times, sparring playfully with Johnny in front of millions. Offstage, they shared social circles, Hollywood parties, card games, charity events. Angie was glamorous, sharp, and magnetic. Johnny was witty, powerful, and enigmatic. Together, they drew attention without even trying. Hollywood thrives on gossip, and few pairings fueled it more than Angie Dickinson and Johnny Carson. Their chemistry on screen was undeniable. Whenever Angie appeared on The Tonight Show, viewers noticed the spark. Johnny's famously guarded demeanor softened around her. Angie, in turn, leaned into the banter with a confidence that few female guests matched. One moment became legendary. During an appearance, Carson leaned in and asked, "Do you dress for women, or do you dress for men?" Angie, quick as lightning, replied, "I dress for women. I undress for men." The audience roared, Carson grinned, and the rumor mill spun faster. To millions watching at home, it felt like a glimpse into something more. Outside the studio, whispers continued. They were often seen together at Hollywood functions. They shared friends. And Angie herself occasionally dropped hints that kept fans guessing. In 1985, she gave an interview to United Press International. When asked directly about Johnny Carson, Angie admitted that she was attracted to him. But when pressed about whether they had ever been romantically involved, she smiled and said she wouldn't give anything away. It was the kind of answer that fed speculation without confirming anything, classic Hollywood ambiguity. More than 20 years later, in 2008, Vanity Fair published a long profile on Dickinson titled "A Legend with Legs." Once again, Johnny Carson's name surfaced. This time, Angie was slightly more candid. She explained that she and Johnny had come very close to a romantic relationship, but the timing was never right. She didn't offer specifics, no dates, no details, no anecdotes beyond that simple phrase. But for fans who had long suspected something more, her words were enough. The article also noted how much time they spent together socially. Angie recalled that Carson was a skilled card player, and that they sometimes played in casual games. Their friendship was easy, relaxed, the kind of connection that often forms the foundation of romance. But once again, nothing concrete emerged. What makes this story so compelling is precisely what isn't known. There are no letters, no photographs, no diary entries confirming an affair. Neither Carson nor Dickinson ever publicly admitted to crossing the line from friendship to romance. What we have are playful quips, lingering chemistry, and Angie's carefully chosen words: attraction, closeness, almost something more. In Hollywood, where gossip spreads faster than truth, that was more than enough to keep the speculation alive for decades. To understand why Angie Dickinson and Johnny Carson's possible romance remained a question mark, we need to look at the Hollywood culture of their time. In mid-20th century America, image was everything. Studios controlled the public perception of their stars, planting stories in magazines and suppressing rumors that could damage careers. For women, the stakes were higher. If an actress was perceived as promiscuous or reckless in her love life, she could lose roles and be branded negatively by the press. Men, especially those with power, were given more leeway. Johnny Carson, for example, was married 4 times and divorced 3, yet his image as America's genial late-night host remained intact. Carson also guarded his private life fiercely. Off-camera, he was reserved, even shy, and few people knew the real Johnny. Those who did were loyal, and gossip about his personal life rarely reached the tabloids. Late-night television itself added another layer. The playful banter between hosts and guests was often full of flirtation, but audiences could never be sure how much was scripted performance and how much reflected genuine attraction. When Carson and Dickinson exchanged witty lines, fans wondered, was it just good television, or was there real feeling beneath the surface? Angie Dickinson, meanwhile, had her own balancing act. She was candid about some relationships, like her long-running connection with Frank Sinatra, but discreet about others. She admitted to dating Sinatra, even describing him as the love of her life, yet she was far more vague about Carson. That selectivity suggests that Angie knew exactly how to shape her public image. By keeping some details hidden, she preserved both her privacy and her allure. The record of Angie Dickinson's comments about Johnny Carson is surprisingly slim, but each remark carries weight. In 1985, Her UPI interview was playful but revealing. She acknowledged attraction, but when asked to elaborate, she refused to give details. It was a deliberate choice. She gave just enough to keep curiosity alive but protected both her privacy and Johnny's. In 2008, the Vanity Fair profile offered more clarity. Angie confirmed that she and Johnny had been close. She admitted that they nearly had a romance, but the timing was never right. She didn't explain what that meant, whether one of them was married at the time, or whether careers and schedules got in the way. But her words suggested genuine possibility. She also reflected on her experiences on The Tonight Show. The famous "I undress for men" line wasn't just a joke, it symbolized the flirtatious dynamic she shared with Carson, a dynamic that blurred the line between performance and reality. Since then, Angie has not made any major new comments about Johnny Carson. At 93, she has largely retired from public life, and no fresh revelations have surfaced. That means the story remains rooted in those earlier interviews, charming, suggestive, but never fully confirming the rumors. Her careful wording is part of what keeps the mystery alive. She never denied the attraction, never denied the closeness, but never fully admitted to romance either. That gray area leaves endless room for speculation. When headlines today scream Angie Dickinson finally opens up about Johnny Carson, they create the impression of a shocking new confession. But is that really the case? The truth is, no. There has been no recent bombshell interview where Angie revealed a hidden affair with Carson. The most candid remarks we have are from the 1985 UPI interview and the 2008 Vanity Fair profile. Both times, Angie walked the same careful line, admitting attraction, admitting closeness, suggesting possibility, but never confirming anything outright. Why, then, do these headlines persist? Partly because Angie is now 93, and any reflection she offers carries the weight of finality. Fans are eager for closure, for a definitive answer to a mystery that has lasted half a century. Journalists know this, and they frame old quotes as if they were new revelations. It's also possible that Angie herself has chosen not to reveal everything. Out of respect for Johnny's privacy, out of discretion for her own, or simply because some mysteries are more powerful unsolved, she has kept details to herself. So when we hear "finally opens up," we should be cautious. It doesn't mean Angie sat down in 2025 and revealed shocking secrets. It means she has, over the years, acknowledged what fans suspected: attraction, chemistry, closeness, without ever going further. On the surface, it's a simple Hollywood rumor: two stars, both attractive, both single at different times, both crossing paths on and off television. But the fascination goes far deeper. It touches on universal themes: desire, timing, secrecy, and the way legends live in the shadows of their public selves. First, there is the magnetism of the stars themselves. Angie Dickinson was more than an actress, she embodied a rare blend of glamour and grit. She was strong enough to hold her own with the Rat Pack and John Wayne, but alluring enough to be considered one of the most desirable women in Hollywood. Johnny Carson, meanwhile, was America's late-night confidant. He was in people's homes 5 nights a week for 3 decades. To combine those two figures in the imagination, the queen of television drama and the king of late-night comedy, is irresistible. Then there is the matter of chemistry. Their interactions on The Tonight Show weren't just funny, they crackled with energy. Angie's quip, "I dress for women, I undress for men," became one of the most quoted moments in late-night history, not just because it was clever, but because of the way Johnny reacted. His eyes sparkled, his smile widened, and for a moment the professional host seemed like a bashful man caught off guard. Viewers sensed something real underneath the performance. But perhaps the deepest reason people care is because of Angie's phrase, "The timing was never right." Those words speak directly to the human experience. Who hasn't had a relationship that might have been something extraordinary, if only life's circumstances had lined up differently? Timing, marriages, careers, obligations, opportunities often determines whether attraction becomes romance. Angie's admission gave everyone watching a mirror to reflect on their own what-if stories. Beyond romance, there is the emotional weight of secrecy. Hollywood has always thrived on mysteries, hidden affairs, lavender marriages, behind-the-scenes power plays. The allure is not only in knowing the truth but in wondering about the truth. With Carson and Dickinson, the vagueness became the story. By never confirming or denying, they gave audiences just enough to dream. And finally, there is the poignancy of age and legacy. Angie is 93 now. When a person of such stature and such years shares even a small memory, it feels monumental. Every quote, every reflection becomes a piece of living history. Fans want closure, but at the same time, they want the mystery to last. It's the paradox of legend. We long for answers, but sometimes we secretly hope the questions never go away. Even after decades of interviews, appearances, and articles, so much about Angie Dickinson and Johnny Carson remains hidden in the shadows of speculation. The central question, of course, is simple. Did they ever truly have a romance? Angie has admitted attraction and closeness. She said they came very close. But she's never confirmed whether they crossed that invisible line into intimacy. Without diaries, letters, or first-hand accounts, that truth may remain locked away forever. There's also the question of why she stayed vague. Was it respect for Johnny Carson, who was notoriously private and who disliked gossip about his personal life? Was it self-preservation, protecting her own reputation at a time when women bore the brunt of public scrutiny? Or was it that the truth was genuinely less dramatic than fans imagined, that it really was just friendship flavored with attraction? We can speculate responsibly. Maybe their timing was blocked by circumstance. Johnny was often married during their peak years of interaction, and Angie had her own high-profile relationships. Maybe their bond was more about emotional intimacy than physical romance, the kind of connection that doesn't need labels. Or maybe it was simply a playful flirtation that never moved beyond charm and banter. Another question is whether private documents exist. Did Johnny ever write about Angie in his personal notes? Did Angie keep letters, photographs, or mementos of their friendship? If so, those artifacts remain locked away, either in private collections or family archives. Unless they surface, the speculation will continue. There is also the role of memory. At 93, Angie looks back on her life through the lens of experience, nostalgia, and perhaps selective memory. As time passes, even first-hand accounts blur. Memory becomes not just recollection, but interpretation. What Angie recalls as almost may feel more significant now than it did then, or perhaps less. And finally, there is the way public narrative fills in the gaps. Fans, journalists, and biographers build stories around the unknown. In doing so, they create legends that may not be entirely accurate but capture an emotional truth. Angie and Johnny's neromance has become one of those legends, part fact, part fantasy, part projection. The facts are straightforward. Angie Dickinson and Johnny Carson shared a unique bond. They were friends, they had chemistry, and Angie openly admitted she was attracted to him. In 1985, she teased the idea but gave nothing away. In 2008, she clarified that they had nearly been romantic, but the timing wasn't right. That is the sum of what is verifiable. What remains uncertain is whether they ever actually became lovers. No interview, no article, no credible source has confirmed it. And perhaps that is exactly how Angie wanted it. She gave us the hint, the possibility, the tantalizing suggestion, but she left the rest unsaid. This is where the phrase finally opens up becomes tricky. It suggests a dramatic confession, a bombshell reveal. But Angie's truth isn't a scandal, it's a whisper. It's not about shocking details, but about subtle clarity. Yes, there was attraction. Yes, there was closeness. But beyond that, she leaves it to our imagination. And maybe that's the beauty of it. Some mysteries are more powerful unanswered. By keeping it vague, Angie preserved not just her privacy, but the magic of what might have been. The allure of Hollywood has always been tied to mystery, the gap between what we know and what we dream. In the end, the story of Angie Dickinson and Johnny Carson is not about proof. It's about fascination, timing, and the human hunger for what if. It reminds us that even legends live lives shaped by choices, circumstances, and missed opportunities. So as we close this chapter, I'll turn the question over to you. What do you believe? Was there more to Angie and Johnny's story than she has admitted, or was that almost the entire point? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and And let's keep the conversation alive. Because in the end, maybe the silence, the smiles, and the half-answered questions are the real story.